What's going on, everybody? I see you live in the chat. That's awesome. Welcome to Red Morning. This one. So it's funny if you guys don't know. Carl's been AFK for a couple weeks now. Between the return of classic WoW, his business woes, and the manosphere being the 8th priority on his list, he's had a bit of a break. He is doing fine. At least as far as I know. He's got a dead drop phone that he was going to use for me, one of his burner phones, if he decided to leave forever. Hasn't used it, so that's a good sign. Anyway, we always give him hopes and dreams, hopes he makes it to level, I want to say level 60, but I only played World of Warcraft for 3 weeks once in like 2007. And I remember once I was at work and I was like anxious about, I got to get home and start doing all this other work for my whatever. And I'm like, this is a effing job. I think I'm done. But we're going to cut right to this one. I realize a lot of the time we err on the side of the entertainment of infotainment. And so I was going to do something a little different this one. It's not going to be a conversation. It's not going to be a rant about who's moron and who's not. And it was going to kind of be the actionable stuff that it's always been there, and we've had it on a bunch of different episodes and little dribs and drabs. But we've never had a chance to talk about it fully. And I thought this would be as good a time as any. Next week, though, I want to bring a guy on who you probably have been following from Twitter. So I'll let you know on that one. Just keep an eye on my Twitter. Bring back Chesty. He's the closest thing to Carl. I would say Carl is the closest thing to Corey, but again, he's one of those guys that in real life has a life, so he's not always available on this stuff, which is fine. He'll probably know a lot of the stuff I'm talking about. So we'll start off with a little bit of meta, give you guys some red meat about, for those of you who may not know, how ridiculous the manosphere is, because it gets pretty bad at times. So I've been a part of it off and on since 2004, 2005. I guess that was it, because that was back when I was doing pickup. Started in 2004, ended like in 2003 maybe. Anyways, it's like about a 10-year gap of that one, and then the relationship side of things and the red pill. And in that time, there's always been beef. You get a bunch of secret kings or gamma males. And for those who are new to the channel, maybe don't know what a gamma male is, Vox Day wrote a wonderful article on, he called it the socio-sexual hierarchy. And he doesn't really frame the alpha thing in the way that most people do. He makes them an actual like archetype. And the alpha is the guy who gets most of the women, is the life of the party. The guys want to be him, girls want him. He considers beta to be the best friend of the alpha male kind of guy. And he eventually goes down the list. I think he uses delta, sigma, which is like a renegade, lone wolf type. And then there's gamma. Gamma, I find, is important. I wish he wouldn't have attached it to the hierarchy like this, because it's a wonderful variation on narcissistic personality disorder. Essentially, and I think Krauser called them secret kings. He's a king in his own mind. He expects everybody else to be, or he lashes out. And the sphere has been full of those kind of guys since I'm just thinking of the 2001 A Space Odyssey scene where a bunch of monkeys are cracking some bones on the ground and touching the monolith. That was pretty much the manosphere, but the monolith was gamma male attitudes. But so I remember the first time I heard about it was, I think it was Mystery and Tyler Durden. They're split up. I won't get into that. I'll kind of get to the stuff that I've been around for. Initially, there was the split between the Red Pill and Married Red Pill, the two subreddits, the two communities there. That one was funny because the character's name was Isolos. He loved the Red Pill, which split from Seduction originally because, and I think it was Robert Fisher or PK Atheist at the time, he put into a post that Seduction communities aren't really answering the proper questions. And you'll see this stuff still today. Oh, Jontai. So he said let's put him in a situation, and I hope I remember this one well. Since that whole hit piece on him, his entire posting history got scrubbed, so I'm really going from memory here. Let's say you're dating a girl. She ends up being bipolar. She screws you over. What do? And he said you would go to traditional relationship advice, and what they would say is you didn't work hard enough. You picked a bad woman. And that was the end of it. And seduction community was the same way. Like, you picked a bad woman. And he goes, well, that's great. So you pick a woman, and then if anything bad happens, then you call her bad, move on. It's not a good answer. So he's like, I'd rather we have a place to get into the nuances of it. And this is kind of where, before this, the red pill was just a shorthand term that a lot of guys had used, starting with Keone Galt, and that it was never a thing in and of itself. That's kind of what started it, where the seduction community and mainstream advice just was not answering the question, why do these things keep happening? Surely there's something I can do to understand the phenomenon and navigate it. Solos, another user, he decided that, because next is the easiest advice. If you're a single guy and your girl's not acting right, soft next, hard next. If you guys don't know what a next is, that's just like you're in a lineup. You finish your deal, you finish the ringing the items through, and next. Same thing there, but dating. They called it nexting. I like that. So he created the married red pill because he goes, okay, so the first answer is almost always next, as it should be. For the married guy, or a married guy with children, or cohabitating with children, any kind of invested long-term scenario, next is still probably the best advice, but a lot of us would really rather not just upend our lives every time there's a disagreement. So we're going to kind of look at what do you do if next isn't your first option. And that's how the married red pill got started. I think it was him, UEM McGill, the blue pill professor, and I wish I could remember who was the original starters, but I know I got some of the names there. Then the red pill and the married red pill had a schism. It's just like what you're seeing now. It's just like what you saw before, and it's just like what's going to happen again in 4 years. Maybe Carl and I'll have our opposing camps or something. Who knows? And it wasn't anything to do with the content. It wasn't anything to do with the lessons, the value for men. And this is the important takeaway to this. It was all about egos. The two communities forked off. And if you guys have watched me for any length of time, I talk incessantly about Ian Ironwood's male social matrix. Back to the sandbox. I'm surprised, actually, the things went down they did, because the information on how to avoid it is there. People just didn't follow it. So with any type of male hierarchy, there's two factors to it. There's an initial fitness testing, and then there's wholehearted acceptance. The fitness testing usually involves some kind of meritocracy. For the red pill and the married red pill, it's fairly straightforward. It's create content. Yes, I'm going to be on Rolo's live thing this morning. So create content. For the red pill, that was mostly it. Bring up theories, improve the lives of men, build positive identities, that sort of thing. Married red pill is pretty straightforward too. Own your shit. Whenever you post something, it's not going to be masturbation. It has to be something you've actually tried or working on. No LARPers allowed. And so people would post on either one, build some content, talk about their lives with gory details. Some of the most amazing things ever, like guys talking, and it's heartbreaking. Guys talking about the realization that if they want to salvage their dignity and live at all a decent life, they essentially have to, at least temporarily, give up contact with their children. And it's not an easy decision to make. In fact, it's probably one of the hardest ones, at least judging by how guys describe the event. I would say coming back from near death is the hardest, but we're not making a contest here. So things like that, or a guy who for 10 years hadn't had sex with his wife because she did not like the touch of him, but she liked taking him out to dinner parties and showing off how she's married and a good girl. So there's all these kind of raw moments, and I try to bring up some of the older ones as best I can when they come up in conversation or when I'm going back doing research for a client or whatever. I do suggest, I know they get zero engagement. I know people are reading them though. I just know they aren't clicking them. So I'd strongly suggest if you see me post these random links, do give them a skim at least, because you'd be surprised what you'd learn about the human condition. Anyways, Somebody works 4 years building up the married red pill, becoming somebody, and they flare the user. Flare was just a little sidebar on there saying that guy's been vetted. He knows what he's talking about. So if you read something from him, usually give it the benefit of the doubt unless it's completely off its rocker. And the red pill had the same thing. They did a point system. They did flares again. Flares were never about status. Flares were an indication to the audience that this guy, and it kind of becomes a self-fulfilling thing where the other guys who have been flared, the original moderators, eventually decide, okay, this guy knows what he's doing. He knows what he's talking about. He's not faking. Here's an indication to you, the new user, if you see him arguing with some nobody, kind of defer to that guy unless like better sense will always prevail, of course. Now, thinking of yourself as King Dingaling in the red pill or the married red pill and then trying to cross over causes problems. And this is something that's good to know for any guy who's in any type of fish out of water situation. Maybe you're the top dog at your company. Maybe you're the hottest band member in town, but you go up into a completely different area. And this is where Sigma males really shine. They understand that their previous status in whatever hierarchy doesn't transfer over to the new one. And then they build it up from scratch. They have all the qualities of somebody at a top end, but they act in a way that shows they're socially aware enough to know that they aren't perceived as that. And so in this case, the red pill flared user would go into the married red pill, start swinging his dick, and vice versa. Causes up everybody to close ranks, and then it causes a lot of ego battles on there. And I think I posted a link about would I do it again, and that was kind of the married red pill and that red pill kind of flare up from usually once a year, where some of the old wounds get done. A lot of people got banned from the other ones. I was very lucky in that I actually took it to heart, and I understood that whatever value I provided for the one community doesn't have transferable status towards the other community. Now, I know I'm talking about having status in an online community, which is laughable on its own. But like I said, this is a nice little petri dish for society. So this works for you if you're going from business environment to social environment, and you're going to see the differences. Alpha loner. So there's never such thing as 100% loner. You're just socially aware enough that you can ingratiate yourself into a new hierarchy easily. And so you don't have to commit to any one of them. But it's not being a loner. No man is an island. Status only comes when other people recognize it. So they had a schism there. The married red pill went off of the sidebar for the red pill. They kind of had like a Cold War thing going on. Next schism was the red pill women, which was funny. So a bunch of the guys decided, well, maybe there's a sexual strategy thing for women as well. Girls got on there. Now, I don't know if I want to say I'm not a big fan or I'm just not familiar with, so I want to be fair on this one. Let's just say I don't know enough to have a good judgment about it, but I'm fairly skeptical about the premise. Having said that, there's been some things of value I've pulled from there for both men and women. But so the red pill and the red pill women were kind of joined at the hip, a lot of the same moderation team. A few of the women started getting uneasy. They started calling it a plate. What do they call it? A plate. I'm trying to remember the name of that. What's the word? Incubator. A plate incubator. And so they started having issues with it. They considered that the purpose of the place was supposed to be a girl who had married, who managed to snag an alpha male, as they call it, and was trying like hell to keep him. So what kind of strategies they use? But it slowly turned into, and it's like with anything, the sun hat goddess types. If you don't know, the sun hat goddess types are the types I refer to when I talk about a girl who wastes her 20s on partying and fun and sex, and then in her 30s is scrambling to learn how to handle a relationship and settle down and be valuable to a guy that's worth it. It's good to see you again too, Highborn. So with that one there, a lot of the girls didn't like how the guys were giving advice, and there were some posts put up about guys are horrible at giving women advice, and they're right. We don't know what benefits women. We only know what we prefer, and it's not the same thing, not always. So they had a schism, and the girls just went psycho. They deleted all the previous posts of value, the sidebar. They went and created their own place, the Red Pill Wives, which absolute gong show. It turns out it was a few of the ball-busting, soccer mom, middle-aged white women types who kind of bullied a lot of them in, and a lot of the original, I really hate using this language because it gives it a certain amount of gravitas that I don't think the internet deserves. But a bunch of the women from the rebellion made new accounts, came back, said they didn't like how it was just being bullied, and it essentially turned into a giant mother hen fest over there. I haven't been to either in a while, so maybe things have changed, but that was the last I remember it. And the funny thing about that is the posters, Phantom Dream 09, who, if I'm not mistaken, was in a long-term relationship with Occam's username. He was the guy who was doing LTR game in the Red Pill. Apparently she up and ghosted him one day. Just stopped coming home, and then the relationship of 6 years was over. So whatever. Those are long gone. So Phantom Dream. I can't remember if Atlas was part of that or not. She was kind of like this Ayn Rand type old Jewish lady with anyways, so they came into the married Red Pill and they started running their mouths about who was bad this, who was bad that. They've always hated the married Red Pill. They've always assumed any guy who had to learn about how to be a husband from a book, it's that whole they don't want to know how the sausage is made thing. They just like it, look at it, and laugh. They were very close to the blue pill, actually, and how they reacted to it. And it hardened me, which you'll see a lot of my tweets when it comes to females giving a lot of grief to the guys improving their lives through this stuff. You'll notice I don't take them too seriously because I've seen it about 150,000 times. Good afternoon, Jero. But yeah, and I want to give some credit. I might talk a little bit about Darla later on here. So there was that schism too anyway. I'll get to keep on the main point here. As you can see, this point I had been in part of the Red Pill as a group, or as a, I guess, yeah, as a group. We'll just stick with that. Very imprecise language here, so I really hope this doesn't come back to bite me on some CNN interview. No, that's not what I meant. I didn't talk about lobsters. Thank you very much. Oh yeah, so as you can see, I've only been here for like a couple years now, and there had already been 3 schisms. And then sure enough, there was Gay Lube Oil schism, where he started, and he was an okay guy. His girlfriend kind of went to Vegas and had a girls' night out and kind of red-pilled him that way with her antics. And he was big on that. He did fitness. He was very good at pointing and laughing. Like, this is wrong. Same way as a teenager would. Point out the absurdity of the modern thing and kind of laugh about it with a goofy voice. Pretty well written. Schism there came when he liked the idea of him running things and didn't like Rollo running things. So they had their bit there. The Red Pill was kind of caught in the middle. Rollo and the Red Pill's always had kind of like it's a generally good and positive relationship, but there's always a point where Rollo's never engaged the community to the same extent that some of us, the others, have, and there's always been a bit of a want for that. So when one of the guys who does bring up a lot with the community came in there, started swinging his dick, originally it was the same thing. Our tribe be your tribe, and that's how things default. But at the same time, there were some structural problems with that whole thing. It was I kind of feel bad because we don't do beef like we used to. That was essentially, that was ridiculous. So he Nazi'd up the site. I really don't like what he did with trp.red. It's kind of the place that people are going to go when Reddit finally removes the Red Pill. It's a decent little platform. I do like it. I have some issue with some of the people in there who still have a voice, but as a platform, I enjoy it, and I'm really looking forward to see where it goes. There's a private tribes function that I have not had the time to try yet, and I will try it. Promise I'll try it. If you guys have worked on it or used it, feel free, talk in the comments. I'd love to hear your feedback on it and what's happened. Like I said, at the same time, we're all moving in the same direction, so I want everybody to succeed, so long as they're here for the success of men in sexual strategy. So then there's this ADJ beef. It was weird. I've never seen beef that came out of left field like that before. Like, there was no inciting event. Just one day he decided to up and go crazy, which was fine. It's, like I said, the 2 years I was at the convention, I enjoyed the experience. I would recommend the experience. The people really made the experience worthwhile. Everybody made sure that the audience got their money's worth. And I liked that. I did my best to foster it as best as I can. And then since we left, I hear a few of the things that we adopted as like add-ons, just things that we liked doing, ended up becoming part of the experience, which is great. It's nice to see something grow and to have a hand in that. But I'm not going to bore you with that history lesson. If you guys are here, chances are you already know where that's going. The Under 21 convention. All right. On a side note, by the way, as you can tell, I'm at that critical juncture this wonderful fall where I've decided to grow my hair and grow a beard. I'm now at that critical juncture where the hair is just long enough that it's annoying as AF. Annoying AF. There. Keep the monetization going. At this point, I'm either going to cut it back down, trim everything back up, or it's going out the whole way. So in the next few weeks, you're going to see me go one way or the other. I've already remember watching Rolo talk about 21. Yeah, well, I mean, at this point, all bets are off. They've actually gone as far as attempting to dox Rolo, so any reaction he has at this point, if you want to play by gentleman's rules, you got to play by gentleman's rules. It's kind of one of those unwritten and hard and fast rules of the manosphere. If a guy is using a pen name, not to release his personal information. I don't think I need to explain to people here why that's important. There's been cases of swatting. People have died from swatting. People's families have been harassed. The mainstream media does it, which for most of you guys right there should be a good enough reason. All right. Well, Ivor, I'll have to take your word for it. I don't really know about that stuff, and I don't want to drift too much on this kind of conversation about it. But the point of this one is, this beef, I don't know. I haven't watched that video we're going to talk about in about an hour and a half. I don't know what's in it. All I saw was, and Americans, you're going to have to correct me if I'm wrong, a flag, I think, of the original 13 colonies, which I find a nice forward-thinking idea. The idea that we're going to make men great by appealing to the 17th century masculinity of guys trying not to starve and hopefully not dying of dysentery. So, whatever. Yeah, see here? And here's John. I'm going to post this. This is a good point. Rule whatever. Rule whatever number. Nice. I know the rules. I can't remember the numbers. Destroy your enemies completely. This is why I really don't like suggesting 48 Laws of Power as the first thing a guy reads. I think he should be finished his map before he even starts it. And this is the exact reason why. It's, these aren't battles. You got to understand the terrain here. This is online, e-com, brand building, business having, a bunch of concepts attached to improving the lives of men in certain ways. And it's got a little bit of that Playboy magazine lifestyle thing. I come for the articles. I stay for the titties. I really do like this. Does kind of have like a Playboy magazine 1960s feel to it. The only thing it's missing is the jet setters are often doing it on credit. So I think that's something we got to work on. Let's smash that like button. If I start making hundreds of thousands of dollars on this YouTube channel, I guarantee we'll bring back the proper jet setting lifestyle videos for you guys. None of this flexing. We'll bring some of you with us. Come on, it'll be a good adventure. Yeah, destroy your enemies completely. So this is online business. There is zero barriers to entry. There is zero cost of doing business. And to think of this as something you can crush is impossible. Let's take Joe Blow Manosphere. He's some guy. He runs his mouth. He's completely retarded by all accounts. He has whatever he does. You cannot kill that. All he needs is the price of an internet connection or a cell phone bill, and he will be online. So you cannot destroy it completely unless you're actually swatting him and heaven forbid something goes wrong. So these rules don't really apply. It's a weird space, and I kind of enjoy it on a meta side. I've talked with Carl about this incessantly, which is awesome. We can't really talk to you guys about it because it's not really valuable to you. I've always tried to, like, it gets me laid. If it doesn't get me laid, then why do I need to talk to you about it? But, you know, right now it's just you. It's just you and me. We're having a little conversation. We're just hanging out, enjoying a coffee, and we're talking about the way things are over a coffee. Hey, how's it going? How's the wife? How's the kids? How's the dog? 48 Laws of Power popular in jail for a reason. Now, here's the thing. The stuff really is useful. Let's say with Twitter or Facebook or online or your business, let's say in life you get one shot at it. After that, it's illegal to start a second business. Then maybe that rule could apply. You can damage somebody's business. You can attack their reputation. And if their business tanks, they're done. That's why these things worked on the Italian Renaissance, because back then, crush your enemies completely meant murder him, his family, his children, and burn his crops to the ground and salt the earth. So that's something you can do. You can't do that now. So be kind of careful, and you really have to, and it's the same thing with Sun Tzu. You really have to map it and adapt it to the modern terrain, because these warfare terms, they sound great to call ourselves noble warriors, Dios vult. We are ninja samurai. We fight in honor and men and all that feelings loaded, compartmentalized bull. It just obfuscates what we're actually doing, and it has us chasing feelings. Anybody who thinks you can completely destroy somebody on the internet is LARPing. You can damage their reputation, but the internet has the memory of a goldfish. In 15 minutes, everybody will be back and nobody cares. OJ is popular as hell right now on Twitter. Remember when he allegedly murdered his family? Like, come on. By the way, Chesty, I saw you in the chat there. If you want to come in and join in, give me about 15 minutes to finish running my mouth and let me know on Twitter. I haven't had a chat with you in a while. It's been a long time, actually. So these beefs always happen, and really, we've decided the only way you can really do anything about this, and this is going to matter in your social circles too. So a lot of you guys, maybe younger guys, maybe college kids, maybe people who have personal and business lives kind of intermingled together, you're going to find, Cindy from accounting, who doesn't think very highly of you and is talking smack about you constantly. This crush your enemies completely thing, it's not going to work in a business environment. So you have to understand it doesn't really work that way. And the only way ahead is to be more valuable to the people than the other person is. With women, that's hard because we have a biological drive to protect women over men. We just do. That's why you can get Arnold Schwarzenegger, the most valuable guy ever to us. He entertains us for 30 years. He runs our states. Everything about him is like super valuable. But one maid makes an accusation and our instinct to protect the women jumps into hyperdrive. So a lot of these battles, you're going to have to do a lot of tactical retreats. I'm using the word battle like tongue-in-cheek here. With men, it's a bit different. If you're at work and some guy hates you and you don't like the other guy, well, guess what? If you're making the company $300,000 a year over top of your salary and he's making them $20, nobody's really going to care. That's why the sales guys or the frontline business always has more status than the backline business, because it's very easy for people to comprehend, I made the company $1 million. It's not very easy to say, I saved the company $2 million. It's a weird psychological thing where we're better able to conceptualize the one and not the other. Having said that, the losses hurt more. But in the case of business, it's all just a nebulous cloud of business money anyway, so we don't really associate loss the same way. So John, here's the thing. With the appropriate response to doxing, and this is where game theory comes in, it's something called the iterated prisoner's dilemma. If you guys don't know the prisoner's dilemma, and I think I'm getting this right, if I screw it up, I'll just carry on afterwards and pretend like I never said it. But prisoner's dilemma is you're in a jail cell. There's you and your friend. You have a choice. You can either say nothing or you can rat them out. Now, if you both say nothing, you both get off scot-free. They have nothing. If one of you talks, he gets a year in prison with probation. The other guy gets 10 years. If you both talk, then you both get 5 years. So what's the best way ahead? This one, it's usually to rat the guy out ends up being the most useful one. But we always notice that in prison, people don't snitch. So it doesn't happen. And that's something called the iterated prisoner's dilemma. And that is, each game isn't in isolation. They all happen within other games. So if you rat out this guy today, yeah, you do your 10 years, but when you get out, you're going to get shivved. So there's consequences for looking out for your best interest. And it's the exact same manifestation you see in any strong social group where they want to maintain the group. In this case, it's criminals. Criminals want to do less jail time. And so the optimal strategy for them is never snitch and to punish somebody who does snitch. Because in a single guy's best interest, snitching is pretty valuable. And so I think with doxing and the manosphere in general and the reputation stuff, it's kind of like that. How that manifests, I'm too much in the middle of it, so I couldn't really tell you if my strategy is good, if my strategy is bad. The way I see it, and when it comes to doxing, the only way that people don't dox, because it's very easy. Bruno wants to dox somebody because it'll make him feel better and it gets the people talking badly about him out of his face. Great. That works for him. But if he finds out that he can't work with absolutely anybody in this space from then on, it adds a tempering effect to it. Audience too. You guys are probably going to be the biggest factor, the biggest calming factor in all this. If I were to go out and dox Rolo's real name because I wanted some fame or something or whatever, chances are you'd all leave, and you should leave. I would strongly suggest you do that. I think it's one of my hard and fast rules. So by doing that, by the audience essentially playing an iterated prisoner's dilemma by speaking or voting with their wallets, in this case, your attention, you cause a tempering effect on this. And it's difficult because outrage media, the way it is right now, it makes it very easy for outrage to get clicks, to get money. It's the Ryan Holiday, it's the Mike Cernovich, it's the everything on that side of things. That's another thing, by the way, from the manosphere. We didn't invent yellow journalism. We didn't start it, but we've turned it on the internet into an art form. Tucker Max was doing this long before it was cool to do that. So it's really about the feedback loop of us being better and you guys holding us accountable to be better. Oh, that sucks. I hear Johnny M just said he got banned because he was saying he was having threesomes in the red-pilled chat, so they banned you. That's pretty sad. Here, vote with your... You know what? Chesty puts it the best. Vote with your attention. Once the outrage wears off, leave the children and stick with the grown-ups. This shit is pure gossiping and bitch behavior. And he's right. And the fact that I'm doing it right now, I'm holding my nose on this one. I'm liking to think that there's some value for you guys that you can map to your life out of this. So I'm trying to talk about it as objectively as I can, which I can't, but I'll try. Just remember, at the end of the day, and here's the thing. We talk a lot about guys being aloof as an attractive alpha quality. And this is part of it. Like zero F's given. Yeah, we all read it in a book. Yeah, you can't be alpha from a book, but let's consider this. Vox Day has his social justice warriors don't lie. One of the best roadmaps to handle public tar and feathering, of which doxing is a subset of that. Why'd you get paid or get more pussy? You know what? Chesty, we're going to... Dude, in a couple minutes, I'm going to have you on. Do you have anything available for you? Like, do you have your mic and that available? Because your chats are just too valuable not to put it in vocal form. What was I just talking about there? Oh, yeah, the zero F's given. So the best thing I learned from reading Vox's article, and I read his book a couple times before Rollo invited me to go IRL with this, but that first, take a step, realize nobody cares. Nobody cares. All this stuff, all this drama, all these heightened emotions, at the end of the day, nobody cares. I have a hard time believing, short of mental instability, that anybody else cares. And even if they do care, they only care in the sense that their ego is harmed. They don't actually care about the other person. It's all about me. Me, 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 me. Welcome to the internet. Sweet. I'll finish up here and I'll throw you a link on Twitter. Yeah, nobody cares. Take a breath. Realize that people are very avoidant. Nobody actually wants to make hard decisions. Nobody wants to do them. Everybody wants you to do it yourself. It's complete high school delayed adolescence. You guys, we talk a lot about delayed adolescence. Well, here's how one way it manifests. I don't want you to quit, or I don't want to fire you. I want to be as horrible as I can to make you want to quit. It's the same as Tim Hunt or Roosh V when he got attacked, or Robert Fisher. Nobody actually fired him. They just piled on to make him want to quit and apologize. And apologies are important. And this is why, as a man, you should never apologize unless something dies and it was your fault. The apology, you think it means it's an atonement thing. I apologize. I admit I've done wrong. I show that I know how to do better, and we'll all move forward from it. In an honest society, that's how apologies happen. In the real world, what it's done then is, well, he apologized, therefore, this thing we accused him of actually happened. It puts blood in the water. It chums the waters. So you don't apologize. You realize nobody cares. Pro Jared, I did a video on this, and guys, you should go watch it after all these, but it was amazing. He actually looks like he understood the concept. He never apologized. He addressed his accusations, and he said, all right, I'm done with this. And he waited for the blood. He waited the 15 minutes for everybody to die down. So when you see all these things, pay attention to who in this space, who in the, I got to call it this space. I really can't think of a better way to describe it. But so you see how people react to this stuff. You see how people treat their followers. Because at the end of the day, none of these brands matter. None of us matter without you guys as an audience. So how we treat the audience is important. It's one of the things I've always argued with Pat Stedman. And by argued, I mean I argued and he just acted smug. I don't like talking down to an audience. I don't like insulting the audience. I don't like trying to be above the audience. You guys don't exist to raise me up. I'll raise myself up. You guys exist so I have somebody to talk to about these, to provide value and receive value in return. It's a very simple exchange. So, Johnny, he doesn't talk smack or anything. All he said was, had a beach apartment. Oh, that's about the threesome thing. That's kind of funny. A little bit of beef in the chat, but that's fine. See if you can map this to your own situation. Somebody at work doesn't like you. That's fine. Just be a better employee or find a new job. If your brother, your sister, your girlfriend, somebody in your social circle is right ornery that way, that's fine. You laugh at it. You be aloof. Don't GAF. People like social cohesion more than they like resolution. That's another thing to remember. In these kind of social battles, people just want things to go back to normal. So regardless of if somebody has done wrong or if somebody was aggrieved, if you can give them a way to just put things back to the way they were, they'll generally take it regardless of who did bad. Wife cheats on you. You get mad about it, which you should be because she wronged you, which she did. You start being angry and weaponizing that anger with your social circle. They'll take her side only because she's like, yeah, it didn't work out. I don't know. The guys might hate cheating. The guys may absolutely be livid about cheating. But right now, what's more important to them is not having drama in their little social circle. And that's another reason why when guys are in relationships, they tend to be the least attractive when they most need help. So that's something else to imply there. Red implies communism. I thought pink wasn't communism. Pinko commies. So I think we got enough about that. I want to bring Corey on here in a couple minutes. There we go. I'm going to send him the chat there. Don't forget, smash that like button. Give me a sec here. Dog's on me. Where in the hell is... See, it's funny. I get so many chats now. By the time I chat with somebody, there's like 15 ones that have gone below it. So it's really hard to find people now. I'm going to have to go off camera and actually... There we go. So we're going to invite Corey in here. I haven't chatted with him in a while. It's been a blast. I actually really like him a lot. But he's been busy. Summer's over. His seersucker suits are put away. Now we're back to normal. I'm trying to get a headset too. I'll wait till he shows up. Sexual strategy, resolve. That's the other thing. It's something I don't get to talk about enough, and I wish I did. I can't remember who put it, but sex is easy. I mean, it's simple. It's not easy depending on where you start from, but be attractive, don't be unattractive. Some routines to help you with your training wheels while you learn to how to have a conversation and to escalate from acquaintances to, sexual relationships, friends with benefits, long-term relationships, baby mamas, whatever you have there. So you got that. It's not hard. I find the hardest part of it is people's mental models, their mentalities. And this is something that I love, and it's actually going to be the topic of my book. I'm about halfway through the second draft. Once that's done, then it's going to be hardcore editing, and we'll get that thing out. I want it out before Christmas. I'm hoping I can do that. I might have to just buckle down and ignore the internet for a while to get it done. But, and this is the part where I'm really going to like having Chesty in here. I don't know how to orange these ones. Maybe I'll do this. Anyways, can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you fine.
Oh, here, one sec. I think this headset's boomed. Corey, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hey, how's it going, man? It's been a while. It's been a hot minute.
Good. Can everybody hear me okay? Do I need to adjust my settings at all, or is everything all right?
I'm sure they'll let us know in the chat.
Oh, I'm sure they will.
So, yeah, it's perfect. Thanks for showing up, by the way. I was thinking about this, and the mindset or the self-sabotage stuff, I thought this was right up your alley because you and I talk about this all the time. We've seen hundreds of thousands of examples of it over the years. And I love the way you can put a phrase together. It's something about that Midwestern folksy wisdom that you got there.
Yeah, I don't know if it's just being exposed to both dumbass city folk and country folk from time to time, but the Midwest is a good mixture of seeing how just about anybody can set themselves on fire in order to try to keep others warm and fail miserably at it.
I know. I was thinking they had a post, it was yesterday, where a guy was having financial problems with his wife, and I was thinking about good old Fire Tempered there, where he did that same thing with communication. I talked to my wife, we set up a budget, and then she overspent it by 50%. So I had to pay off her credit card debts, and it would happen every month. And I looked at that, and I thought, if this was heroin, would there be any doubt that he's an enabler?
Well, I mean, money kind of is the source of all of addiction, unless you're paying for it with blowjobs. Heroin and everything else comes from somewhere. And if you can't set a boundary with money with your significant other, then everything else is going to fall to hell at some point.
Oh, yeah. And by talking, that's the worst part. I think whatever woman started that whole communication is the key to a healthy relationship meme, at least the way that it's been interpreted now, I think they need to be brought out back and beat with a hose. I've never understood why the need for more talking and consensus seems to be treated as sacrosanct, because I find it never works, at least from any type. Once there's a problem, I think it never works. If there's no problems, of course people can talk because they don't have problems to talk about.
Well, the only thing that people really want communicated is consensus and agreement. They don't want anything else communicated. I mean, most people just want to hear that what's going on inside of their head isn't the disorganized ramblings of a unactualized crazy person. And if a woman feels a certain way about a relationship, she just wants some type of confirmation that the running dialogue in her brain isn't just her remembering what she felt like when she was 15, that a grown man can also agree with her on the same point. And if they're not agreeing with one another, she gets bent out of shape because she feels as though she's adrift. And if you don't have boundaries with somebody, that stuff only gets worse. And then if you try to talk with one another and the one person is unimpressed with the way that you believe you're handling your situation, then at that point it's a talking to a third party for the purposes of one person being told they're right, not necessarily that they're happy.
I was thinking that reminds me of the Jack 10 post about that. I don't know if you remember that one. It's the one where he was talking about what being vulnerable and sharing your feelings means, like when you manifest it properly. I don't know. Do you remember this one or no?
Yeah, I remember 90% of the posts. It's one of the gifts and curses of having a strong written word memory.
I do find it funny, by the way, how you and I can talk about a single comment 3 years ago and like, oh yeah, that one, I remember that. I guess, oh yeah, for the audience, for you guys who don't know, it was a guy asking a dude to share his feelings, and because she was insecure about a certain situation, so he started talking about his insecurities, and then she freaked the f out. It was, and he didn't understand why. He's like, she wanted me to share, so I shared. Why is she freaking out? That's that poor bastard.
Well, yeah, I mean, I really don't think when women say let's talk, they want full disclosure about what all of your hopes and fears are. They want some confirmation that they're on the right track with whatever it is that they're feeling, and that you at the very least can empathize with the fact that there might be something wrong, and that you can recognize that she's not crazy for feeling that way. That's all that is. It's not when a woman says, please, we need to talk about something. Can you share what's going on with you? No, you don't get into the fact that you're, 2 weeks away from losing your job because you haven't met your sales quota, or that you went to the doctor yesterday and it might be cancer. She doesn't want to hear any of that stuff at all, ever.
No, those aren't my problems. Those shouldn't exist.
Well, it's not even that. It's why should I, need to be burdened with any more problems in my life when I'm already feeling overwhelmed with the minutia that goes on in my head as a Western woman.
It's true. Yeah, neuroticism running rampant. I can.
And what I don't understand a lot of times is that this neuroticism is just completely self-created and self-actualized, because I mean, some of the most neurotic people I know are, quite arguably some of the most comfortable people that I've ever seen. Every creature comfort, every monetary need, every possession that you could ever ask for, and they're batshit crazy.
They're wearing tissue boxes as sandals.
Well, not even that. It's that they're afraid to leave the house between certain hours of the day, and have stuff either delivered to them, or they have other people run all their errands and things like that.
Jeez, it sounds like you know my sister.
Well,
That's her to a T.
I like to call them, upper middle class vampires, because that's pretty much how they behave. I mean, if the sun's out and some other people can do something for you, it's best stay inside and only come out at night.
I might steal that term from you. I don't know, for the audience, guys. I don't know if you know this, but I have like a real disdain for like upper middle class soccer moms. I don't know what, it's just that vampire thing. It's that weird juxtaposition between no value to me whatsoever, but highly demanding, and enough of a social network to have some enforcement behind it. It's like living next door to a bear. The bear could maul you, and the bear makes no sense, and that bear's haircut is too short and wants to speak with the manager, and it irks me.
But yeah, I mean, between the UMC vampires and Karen from HR, they're pretty much all of the negative reinforcement of middle-aged women you need. Either that person who wants to talk to you about your tone in a memo at work, or I need to speak to your manager. Those types are the worst. They really are. Every once in a while I'll go pick up my kids at school if I've got time, or if it fits into my schedule or whatever, and I'll pull up in my car to the curb, and it's always some busybody who tells me to go to the end of the line in the carpool or whatever that I can't pull up to the curb, and then I stick my head out, and as the head of the parent-teacher organization, they're like, "Oh, well, never mind." It has everything to do with who I am and what I look like. It has nothing to do with whether or not it's a good rule or a bad rule or whatever. Because if it was any other dad pulling up, they'd be told to go to the end of the line.
Yeah,
So,
it's moral relativism. Your status is the only thing that matters.
yeah, that and the fact that some of them want to fuck me, but that has, it's a different dynamic. I mean, if I were an ugly prick driving a shit car, they would treat me completely differently.
Oh, 100%. There's another lesson for other people too. Being affable is probably one of the best ways to calm down the strife in your life that way. Having status also helps, sure. I wouldn't say money, but definitely status. I was thinking too on this too. You remind me of that. It's what got me started on my disdain for the vampire types. It's in Montreal. My girl had a friend, Portuguese girl, and she had this weird thing, and it's because she had popped out 2 kids early, the upper middle class lifestyle, so she only talked to her kids, and she never left the house for like 5 years. She talks to grown adults as if they're her children. And I remember, and she doesn't like me anymore because I don't like that, and so I tend to poke fun at it. And I think in her mind, that's how you would talk to other people, as if they're your children. And I think by going against that, it really irks people. I really should have been more attractive, but she wasn't very attractive anyway, so I didn't really want to have her looking at me with those eyes.
Yeah, I think part of it though is just frame of reference and who you talk to throughout the day sometimes informs how you end up, putting yourself out there to the world. I remember, when my wife was on maternity leave for a while with the kids at different points in time, I'd come home and she'd be stuck in baby talk mode, and I'd be like, "Look, man, you're gonna need to talk to me like an adult woman here, like real quick, or I'm gonna go out and get a beer or go to the gym or something, because this is just getting weird." Yeah, and if you could imagine having all of that kind of reinforced over time by going to visit other mothers and telling their kids all the time, no, 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 don't touch that, or whatever, and you get into that child mother dynamic so much that the first thing they want to do is put you in timeout whenever they disagree with you, as opposed to speaking to you like another adult. That always has a tendency to happen unless you can kind of pull people back and say, "Hey, look, you're still the girlfriend, the fiance, the wife before you were ever a mother, and I want to see all 3 of those people sometime soon, or there's going to be a change in management." So
I like how you put that.
Well, that or I'm going to outsource the other 3 people. I need that sexy woman in my life. I do not want Kate plus 8 replacing the woman that I met, or that I made my fiance, or that I married, or whatever. And
I was just going to cut you off quickly there. I was thinking of those ones where it's those arguments that start before she makes her point. She says, "I'm a mother," as if that's the burden of proof. I'm a mother, so I always loved those. Shut up.
Well, okay, so you took a dick at the right time and brought a child to a full gestation. That somehow confers upon you some type of moral or intellectual authority. Okay, there, Susan.
Yeah. God, I feel bad for real girls named Susan because they've just become a meme. Susan and Stacy. At least Stacy gets to be like the cool bubbly chick that everybody likes. Susan's just the one that nobody can stand.
Unfortunately, Stacy's got a target on him because of Elliot Rodger, but that's a whole different problem.
Oh, please. You know what? I don't want to dismiss that because it's a horrible tragedy. People got stabbed, but the guy couldn't approach and couldn't talk to women, couldn't get a woman. Even when he goes on a killing spree, mostly kills men. Couldn't even approach women with a knife. I don't know why, but I found the black humor in that. What can you do but laugh at these horrible tragedies just for those little ironies that are inside of them? Oh boy, my YouTube channel's getting blocked for that one.
Nah, I doubt that highly. they don't want it. They don't want to approach the incel problem or incels, or there would be a lot of gaming channels that would be completely out of business here. And Lord knows, gaming channels make more money on YouTube than probably just about anything.
Oh, that's that they do now because they've actually demonetized all children's content.
Yeah, and I look at guys like I'm not pointing him out to shit on him. I think he's actually a pretty good guy. Like Jeremy Hambley, the goes by the Quartering, and he's got a few other channels there on YouTube too. Depending on what he's talking about, he kind of has them segregated into a social channel, a gaming channel, and a rant channel.
Oh, I didn't know he had multiple channels.
Yeah. He's got one like called Midwestly. He's got one for his gaming community one, and then the Quartering is kind of his catch-all, where a lot of his social commentary on gaming goes. But
I wonder if he has any videos on Brie Larson in there.
Oh, many. Yeah, he's so tongue-in-cheek about the fact that he had so many videos about Brie Larson that he likes to show everyone his. He calls it his Brie shed, which is basically a shed that he's got out back, kind of like Hunter's office, that he says that Brie Larson paid for. So he puts like posters of Brie Larson up inside the shed just to prove the point that she's the one mostly responsible for him having it. It's hilarious, actually.
That is pretty funny. Yeah. I gotta admit, I do like him. Rolo got me onto him, and I hated how the trope. Chubby guy with beard with video games in the background talking about people. God knows there's like 500 channels, but for some reason his kind of stands out to me. So whatever he does, he makes it somewhat entertaining.
Yeah, he's kind of one of the big pushers of that whole get woke, go broke thing, and I agree with that for the most part. That if you try too hard to pander to niches, bringing it back to kind of the manosphere, you will lose your ass. you need to be relatable to just more than a few people who have some type of inside information about what churl means.
Oh yeah, like where's Perez Hilton now? Does anybody remember his ass? Not really.
Well, no, because he's like Outrage light compared to a lot of the people now. Other folks just said, "Hey, look at this guy. He seems to be kind of edgy. Let's ramp that up to about 14 and see how it works out." And he never really followed. So, good for him, I guess. Hopefully, making his money quickly and getting out. But man, it's just once you start down a certain path of how people relate to you. And you look to seek more. You got to get more outrageous, I think, and I think that's part of the reason why some content creators in this space just appear insane half the time, because they're pandering to too many people and they're trying to be relevant to too many people, and in doing so, they contradict the shit out of themselves.
Which is ridiculous. I haven't been a content creator for long. I really kind of hate the term because it just sounds generic, takes all the humanity out of talking to people on the internet. But I used to be an artist. I used to love art. And the worst thing that anybody who's ever created anything, you ask an author, ask a painter, ask a sculptor, other than commissioned work, the worst thing you can do is ask the audience on what you should create. And I don't get why that's such a hard lesson for people. That's everything. Relationships, too. That's the same thing. The worst thing you can do to your girlfriend or date or wife is ask her what she wants in a relationship, because her answer will suck. 100%. I've never heard it. Ooh, actually, here's a good one for you. Sorry, this one's going to be a little story. I'm going to ramble to give me a little Rolo time here without some periods. But do you remember, this one was another post, I think a month ago, where some chick was talking about how her husband wouldn't step up. She just got a new job, and the big part that you might remember from it is that she was very jealous of her upper middle class friend who had a horse hobby farm.
Oh God.
Yeah.
The moment I hear horses, my ears perk up like a stallion, and I kind of turn in that direction with that frightened foal look, really big eyes, and go, huh? Because horses plus women equals just a money pit plus insecurity plus
need to dominate.
Oh Jesus, she wants to she wants to ride your wallet like she wants to ride that horse. Seriously,
Hmm.
that oh my god, that and boat culture. Oh my god, when are we going to get a boat? Hopefully never, dear, because a boat is where you take a huge pile of cash right over top of the water and just kind of dump it in there,
Yeah.
and you never see it again.
I have two friends with boats, both saltwater boats too, so that's even worse. And they said that it was like, yeah, if you ever have $100,000 you don't know what to do with, throw it in a boat. You'll find it gone real quick.
Yeah.
Anything chrome with the word boat in it automatically costs 3 times what it should. You're like, I hate this thing.
Well, yeah, that and the fact that you have to pay some dude to polish that chrome every couple of weeks, or it's going to get salt pitted,
Hmm.
almost immediately. I don't even understand that at all. It's, oh well, is this nickel plated? Oh no, this is chrome. Good luck to you, sir. You're gonna be polishing that out every single weekend. At least you now have a hobby that can build
Yep.
up your upper arms, because you got to deal with that railing all summer long.
Yeah. Well, I guess some guys they just don't want to manicure a lawn. They're like, I like this lawn, but I need it to cost more. What can I find instead?
Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
man, my buddy actually listens to these right now, and he just got his new boat and he's enjoying it. It actually is a pretty sweet boat. So,
Mm.
I mean this with love, buddy.
Yeah,
um,
but getting back to the horses, man. Those women, some of them look fantastic in riding boots and the outfits, and oh god, it is so tantalizing sometimes, but
mhm.
oh, it's just not worth it. It's a trap. It
I
really.
agree. But that was the funny thing. And then you see a lot of the guys, and it was the reason why we banned women from Married Red Pill. It wasn't so much because they were useless, and a lot of them were. A lot of them treated it all about them. But it's as soon as a girl came in and asked for advice, guys were chomping at the bit. But this one I remember, it was always about my husband. He lost his job. He's going to school to get a new one, but she has to drag him into everything. The chores aren't being done. And all that kind of surface level stuff that's not the actual issue. But then you found the issues when she started out of nowhere and it had no context about, well, my friend has this and my friend has that and I don't have that. And so you can clearly tell the underlying issue is a keeping up with the Joneses thing and the guy's just not laying the pipe right. And so she went to me privately. I'll skip a lot of the details, anything personal there, because I kind of went in there as my one foray into the red pill women, and I'm like, yeah, this one's like she's looking for a reason to get out and not be a bad person. There's nothing he's going to be able to do to fix that. She's already made her decision. She came into the chat because I called her, I think, a status conscious middle aged soccer mom, and I look forward to seeing her argue with somebody on Purple Pill Debate. And she came to me privately and very adamant that she protect her reputation. And so I kind of gave her the whole Ironwood roadmaps. Like, look, here's the problem: is that you want the guy to do some things, and it was the old Jack 10 post where he said it's the only time he gave female advice, where he said guys need to do dread. It's covert communication, so it appeals to the way women communicate, or women communicate. So for a girl, you have to do something overt, where it's essentially, look, I have X, Y, and Z problems in this relationship. I'm going to go to my mother's house for 3 weeks. When I get back, I want you to have a solution you've already been starting on, or we're going to separate. Which, and I even told her, like, I have no idea if that works. It makes sense, but good luck with that. She came back in 3 weeks, same thing. And it's why you can't really bring your wife or your girlfriend or your dates along with you when you're self-actualizing, because she would tell him the things she needed. She tried not to micromanage. She stepped up and used and had more sex and treated that as separate from a reward system. The guy ended up being happy and complacent in the relationship and not actually doing anything. And so I'm like, and that was my final advice to her, was just like, look, if you really want him to get that fire under his ass, you kind of have to cheat on him and leave him. And then he's going to be angry enough that he'll probably start doing some stuff. And she came back 3 weeks later. She's like, yeah, you're right. And I felt bad because I don't envy women, because to me that seems like they have zero control over the quality of their relationship. It really is the burden of performance.
Yeah, I don't know if it's necessarily that either. There there is a certain amount of self-control that can be exercised, and I've never been the type to say that women don't have agency and that they're just pushed along through a relationship by their feelings. But when it comes to people who listen to their friends to the point where they want to either live vicariously through them, or they want to mimic what they're doing, even if it's to their detriment, then sometimes they're a lost cause. And if this woman wants to act like her divorcee friend who's taken miles of dong on the weekends, that there's nothing you can do to stop that.
Nope.
Except extricate yourself from it and set yourself up into a position for a softer landing than what the legal system's going to give you anyway. So
yeah. I think the awareness and the lack of ego is going to be key to that too, because there's no way guys getting blindsided by divorces. I think that only happens when they willfully ignore warning signs, obvious warning signs. Now, some guys, maybe they can't get it. If you've married your high school sweetheart, maybe you don't know what it looks like when a girl's getting ready to move on. Maybe if she's the one, you have no idea what looking for number 2 looks like. But for guys, especially like a divorced pickup artist, drives me nuts. Because I'm like, you should have known better. Or you should have at least, like, in your divorce better be clean, because you should have known the signs. You've seen the signs. You've been the guy on the other side of those signs. There's no excuse for falling for that stuff.
Well, I mean, again, it goes down to ego. A lot of guys who are in pickup think, all other men out there are competition and simps. So when it comes to them locking somebody down, they're under the assumption that they're different and therefore better, and therefore not susceptible to the same shit that they saw as patterns in other, committed guys while they were running game.
Yeah, the rules don't apply to me. I
Well,
don't like those guys.
the rules don't apply to me because I saw everything when I needed to see it. But then once I became the guy that I was witnessing before, I'm going to ignore those signs because I'm different, I'm better. No, you're not. Human nature doesn't change because of a sample of one.
Yeah.
I
know the rules of basketball. It doesn't mean like I'm going to win every game.
Well, not only that, it's like saying, I can see that you dribble to the right and then shoot with your left hand. I'm going to stop you from doing that, or I'm going to score more than you based on my technique. But then when you attempt to do the same thing and someone else witnesses it, and applies the same rules back at you, well then, guard his right hand. Okay, well, that seems to be easy enough, but obviously the rules don't apply to you. And, I don't understand where the self-awareness and the awareness of the game immediately stops once you've found the girl. But with pickup artists, that's been more common than not.
Horribly common.
Especially the old school guys who, learn to pull but never how to keep. And that's kind of the difference now between a lot of the guys in the space who are decent at pickup, is at least they have some awareness on bitch management outside of just
I love that phrase.
how to pull a girl. And the management skill is just as important. And dread is a completely different level of game management that normal, pump and dumps don't require, because you're essentially
next is the solution for everything.
Right, and you're in the relationship for it to eventually end intentionally. You're not trying to sustain anything. So unless a pickup artist learns the rules of long-term agreements and arrangements, he's just going to be successful in notches, but not with the same woman for any extended period of time.
Right. Here, I'm going to bounce back just for a minute. This Russell Moore comment, I really like this one because it really gets to what I was talking about at the start. That if she wants a boat, hopefully you weren't with her in the first place. Materialistic women are a one-way ticket to divorce court. They are always going to be a guy with more money than you. A couple things to this, and this is kind of where I got into like why the red pill as a subreddit was created outside of like seduction community. So that puts it's your fault. You can hand wash it away. Well, it's his fault. He picked a bad woman. Here's the thing. There is a certain amount of materialistic women, also known as all of them to some extent. And nothing makes a woman more materialistic than material goods. So as you become more successful, this problem becomes more prevalent. Either gold diggers like you, or girls are becoming gold diggers because you keep buying them too many purses. So it's kind of one of those things that it's a problem that you create for yourself by leading with your financial provision. So to blame yourself for picking the wrong woman, I don't think is a useful way of framing it. On top of that, there's only, give or take, one woman for every man. 7 billion people, 3.5 billion women, 3.5 billion men for the most part, depending on your area. Somebody's going to be caught with a materialista. So it's best to talk about it as if you're not just dismissing them as, oh, that's a materialist. You don't want that. Oh, a horse girl. You don't want that. You start swiping till all you're left with is that one girl in the Ukrainian vintage outfit in a cornfield with no shoes on, cooking potatoes every 3 days. Never met a man. Never seen a dick other than by the cattle on the farm. Like, it's just an unrealistic expectation. We can have, every time we have this talk, you're going to run into a subset of women that, oh, you just shouldn't date those. But once you put all the subsets together, you just get women. And so to blame you for picking the wrong kind of woman, I don't think it's helpful. I think a better way to frame it is pick your poison. Women are going to be, I'm just going to throw out some random numbers here. 80% of it's going to be what you want, and that other 20% is going to be your bitch management. And for some guys, it's going to be materialistas. For some guys, it's going to be horse girls. For some guys, it's going to be the girl that doesn't know how to speak other than to her children.
Yeah. And some of these things will creep up on you. It's not as though, she's pre-made and set in stone, when you first meet her, and that all of these possible peccadillos are all out on the table immediately. I mean, some of them are packed away in a trunk in the basement someplace, and once you only move to the right place or at the right time in a relationship, can that trunk finally be pulled up to the main floor of the residence, opened up and aired out. So I mean, if you met a woman, at a rodeo, and she was big into talking about the specific aspects of the barrel races, well, maybe that give you a fucking clue that this might be somebody that might be into horses, or every single magazine that the woman has a picture of a 22-footer on it. It might be an indication that she's into boating culture or whatever. Or she always talks about how she used to party when she was younger. What did you guys used to do on the weekends? Oh, we always used to go down to the docks and hang out there. When you associate all of these positive memories growing up, or what they like to do with their spare time with these very expensive hobbies, I mean, you can't be a dumbass about it. You got to understand that this probably comes with the package in some way or another. So you're either going to be subsidizing this fun, or you better come ready-made with some of these activities that she's used to having. So it's,
or just say no, and if she leaves you, she leaves you.
Right.
That's the thing too. Picture the guy who gets the one who doesn't do any of that stuff. She's like, oh, I read on the weekends. I go to the coffee house and that. It also tells you, oh, she doesn't have all those expensive hobbies, but she also has no friends, is an introvert. So she's going to be a giant time suck, which I think is even worse than a money suck. Just pick your poison, really.
Yeah. And that's the thing too. I had a girlfriend in high school. I had a girlfriend in high school who was big into horses, and being the accommodating type that I was, 16, 17 years old, I thought, well, I'll learn everything I can about this girls' likes and dislikes, and
Right.
this should be a useful thing. And so, I learned all about the difference between English style and Western style riding, the differences between the saddles, how to tell a quarter horse from an Arabian just by looking at them, shit like that,
Yeah.
real hobbyist things. And, got some action in some barns, and, you get kind of looped into that whole thing. And but if you let it change you, and if you let it, morph you into somebody that you don't want to be, and that's what I was kind of becoming. I was spending 2-3 days a week, at some barn someplace learning about horse husbandry, and I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? This is stupid. I don't have any free time anymore because I'm learning all about this hobby that some girl that likes to play with my wiener every once in a while likes to do, but I don't particularly care for it, and there's no way that I would do this full time other than the fact that I like to hang out with this chick. So you just have to, figure out what it is that you want first and calibrate from there. I mean, if you're always in some woman's frame trying to figure it out what it is that she likes to do, and you don't have a frame of reference or a frame of lifestyle or hobbies of your own.
Oh yeah, she's just gonna pull you along for the ride.
Absolutely. You're just gonna be that guy, cheering her on at some jumping show or some dressage event. I love the way you look in that outfit. It's just ridiculous. You can't do that.
Yeah. I hear Russell, I know you rejected that you're trying to do the equative thing. I think you're missing the point here. We're not talking about, I'll put it up there because I don't want to have to repeat the whole thing.
Sure.
I'm not saying one is worse and one is better. I'm saying pick your poison. There is no perfect girl that comes out of a mold. They're all going to have something that you can't stand about them. Try to find the one, and my buddy actually put this very best, the boat guy. With a modest amount of work, you're going to get about 80% of what you want. And for an insanely large, way too much amount of effort, you can get that extra 20%. So just find the 20% that you can live with. Now, maybe for you, you don't want to throw a bunch of money on a boat girl or a horse girl. That's fine. Maybe for you, you would rather do that than put up with a girl that sucks your time away and wants you as opposed to her friends. And I've seen that too. My one buddy, Colin, he had his fiancée, a French girl, which first mistake right there. But every time he wanted to come out with us, his girl would get sick. Ellie would get sick. She really needs him. She had a hard day. She would just play wounded. And so he eventually just lost all of us for a 6-month period until he finally ditched her. And by ditched her, I mean she decided to find something better. But in that case, do you think he would really prefer, I think he would much rather buy her a horse than put up with being isolated like that from his friends. So
yeah, I understand Russell's point. He's saying that quantitatively there are some people who are worse than others, and that
Quebecois.
No, I don't think it's necessarily limited to Eastern Canada, Ryan. But no, the issue that I think he's talking about is just that the person who would be willing to take a ton of your resources from you is objectively worse than somebody who likes to spend time reading and drinking coffee on the weekends. I mean, it's an extreme.
That's a very literal way of looking into what we just said.
Right. I think what I'm talking about more, Russell, is the fact that if I need to change my lifestyle in order to morph it to some woman's hobbies, I've already lost. If I were at the polo matches or participating as one of the guys in the competition, and she was there and she was cheering me on already, and I already had the budget and I already had the horsemanship, and that was stuff that I like to do as a hobby, regardless of what she brought to the table, then that's different. If I own, a 35-foot Boston Whaler, and I like to take that out on the weekends already and troll around on that, and I understand the costs of ownership and fuel and all that bullshit, and she comes along for the ride, and she's big into boats. I understand what's going on with that.
You're not doing it for her.
Correct. I'm doing it already as part of my lifestyle, and she's along for the ride, and that's my frame. If I decide to make a whole bunch of lifestyle changes for the whims of some chick, then I'm in a position where I'm not doing things for my own pleasure. I'm doing it in order to try and attract somebody else, and that's not a good way of going about it.
You know the telltale sign when that's happening? It's when the guy starts saying we. Yeah, we decided that we want to move to a bigger house to be closer to a bigger school. I'm like, oh yeah, we did? That's just like
Nah,
we broke up. We decided to break up. Like, yeah,
nah,
sure we did.
we we is a euphemism for she's been making decisions for me for a long time. That's
Yeah.
what that means.
We is acquiesce.
Yes. Yeah, that you've checked out and you just don't want the responsibility of making the hard decisions, or you've taken a loss and you just want to attribute it to a group of people instead of just you.
Oh yeah, that one there too. It's such a weird thing. It's once I think Rollo put it, the raising men as defective women. Once they started framing it like that. Now I know it's obviously not men being raised as women. Men were doing this before feminism came around, but like to associate these qualities that seem to work better for women than for men this way just opened my eyes to a lot of things that are just horrible. Guys putting up with way too much. Like think about all the problems that we have in modern society. How many of them would go away if fathers and husbands and boyfriends learned to say no and stick to their guns? I don't think consumer debt would be nearly where it is today. I don't think household debt would be. I don't think the mortgage crisis would be where it is if it was just for that one small change. Well,
Yeah.
that and the subprime loan thing, but
Well, yes, I and I unfortunately, being in the business that I am, I've seen a lot of McMansions, get clapped together in a relatively quick period of time, sell for outrageous prices, and then get put back on the market at ridiculously low, foreclosure prices from lenders, because everybody knew that the housing that was going up was very,
debt fueled.
oh well, not just debt fueled, but I mean, some of these houses, if you really get into them, I mean, they're built like garbage.
Oh, hey, speaking of which, I didn't know that you guys had this. So you could technically, if you foreclose on a house, the bank could charge $1 if they wanted to, couldn't they?
Yes, but what a lot of times they'll do is they'll put in a credit bid on whatever is owed on the house,
Right.
and so essentially they'll just be taking the house back at zero. They
But
can
it's funny because
they
in
can
Canada law, we actually have a law where it says you can't do that because they have to charge fair market rates because they realize that by doing it that way, you're going to be completely depressing a real estate market, which is one of those reasons we did so well in 2008 were small regulations like that, which I found, I don't know, off topic, but I just found that hilarious how that small little change there can make such a big difference. It also made our banks a lot more skeptical about extreme loans like that.
Yeah, I think too, it gives an unfair advantage to the investor. Sometimes that particular way that works, because then all you have to do is outbid the bank. And depending on what the circumstances are, outbidding the bank can be very easy. And you just end up bidding $1 more than what the bank has owed on the property at that time, because all of the foreclosure listings themselves are done by what's called advertisement and posting for the most part, where
Right.
you don't need a court order in order to sell your collateral. You just list it, post it at a courthouse or whatever, and then throw a sign on the door of the place that's being foreclosed after the other family has left, and
Huh.
say, on this date, this is going to be a sale held by the sheriff or whatever, police authority in your area is. This is how much is owed on the property. We, the bank, intend to credit bid, meaning put in a bid for the exact amount that we're owed. But since we're owed the money, we're not coming out of pocket anything. And then you, as an outside investor, can come in and pay $1 over that. So if it's $150,000 that's owed on a $400,000 house, you can
You're
come
getting
in.
a house for 150,001.
Correct. And for investors, it's an excellent thing, but for your neighbors, it sucks, because then it shows up in the public record that the house last sold for $151,000. And then when you go to sell your house next door and you want to sell it for 450, well, the comparables in the neighborhood show this, this, and this, and then you have to explain to people, well, that was a foreclosure. Or, okay, well, why are there people broke enough to foreclose in your area? Do I want to live there now? So it creates this whole snowballing effect of how are we going to deal with this marketplace? And
it all started because the husband said, "Sure, honey, whatever you want."
Yeah, a lot of times, a lot of times that's very true. And if you don't know what you can afford, or you don't have enough balls to put your foot down and just simply say, "Hey, we're not going to buy that house."
Yeah.
That's it. So.
Yeah, and it's a weird thing how just teaching a guy how to go and get his dick wet can have such long-lasting benefits completely outside of that.
Yeah, I mean the abundance mentality is very important. Being able to say, hey, look, this one person isn't my sole source of sexual satisfaction if I choose it not to be.
Yeah.
And don't have some weird moral attachment to that particular circumstance. You can go pretty far in life.
100%.
But if you feel as though you're beholden to this one individual, regardless of how poorly they treat you, because you've made some covenant, then
clever choice of words, by the way.
Your option is limited. Well, I mean, if I vow, and if I go before people in a church and I say I promise to do X, Y, and Z, and the government only looks at it as a suggestion, well, then what type of power does it hold other than your own ethics? And
I'll do you one better too. And if the church doesn't take her side in it because you weren't doing your husbandly duty, what does that say to your vow? You're the only one that seems to have treated it as sacrosanct.
And that's the problem. Is I've often said to men that for some men, or for many men, vows are absolute, and for women they're suggestions. So I mean, depending on how good or how valuable you are to her, that's literally the litmus test of whether or not your vows have any staying value.
Mm-hmm. It's just like a boundary. It's only as good as its enforcement, or I guess a boundary, a law, pretty much everything. It's only good if it's tested.
Yeah, I mean, if the United States can't enforce its own immigration laws because it's unkind to do so, then what value do those laws have? But I mean, that's a completely different topic. But I
don't think anybody cares about it anyway.
Right,
Everybody always talks about us, how Trudeau is great, and then they forgot to check that what you guys want for immigration law is what we already have. Yeah. Oops. I guess we're Nazis now.
I know. Yeah. Well, I mean, the majority of your immigrants, though, are pretty valuable human beings. I've never known very many Sikhs to, suck off the teat of society and the taxpayer as much as these folks coming across the border do now.
Oh, I would rather do business with a Sikh than a white guy. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Hardest working, nicest neighbors.
Yep. They're fit dudes too. From what I see, they're always walking the neighborhoods and stuff. I mean, they're out there doing their thing.
Yep. That's why I always laugh at the Bobs and Vagine crowd, because I'm like, there's no way you guys are from Northern India.
No, because in fact, I was in Chicago yesterday, and I was with the family at one of the nicer museums there during the morning.
Right.
And some 55-year-old Sikh with just a awesome dark magenta, almost bordering on burgundy turban, comes in full suit, woman on his arm, probably 25 years younger, jet black hair down to her ass, skirt, white top, boots to her mid calf. She was just put together.
And a horse.
Yeah, and they were walking through that place like they had not a fucking care in the world. And I'm like, you go, man.
Good on him.
You do your thing. Yeah. And that's the thing, is those guys, a lot of them have their business together, their life together, their family together, and they don't give a crap. And some of them too are trained in combat in ways that a lot of people don't understand too. They fight with knives, and if you're ever around that group long enough, they'll teach you some weird things.
Yeah. Well, I've never seen a fight with one Sikh guy ever. I've seen a fight with 20. I've seen a fight with him and his cousins. Never seen a one-on-one.
Yeah.
It was always my favorite thing when they'd have like baseball tournaments in my town, because we had a huge Sikh community and then a large native community and a large like white redneck community, and they'd always be on like separate team. Well, the Sikhs would never play baseball, but they'd be at the bar, and then one guy would start things with the wrong guy. Brawl would start out, the natives versus the rednecks, and then one guy would mistake a Sikh for a native, and then and the whole thing was just entertaining as hell. Teeth and hair flying everywhere. The bouncers, they had this like running thing where, because there wasn't enough bouncers for these big brawls, so they made a deal with all the other bars in town that if anybody gets the 911 call, they close down the bars and all the bouncers converge.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty epic to see.
That's like the first responders of Brawls. That's hilarious.
Yeah. Well, keep in mind, Cactus Jacks was the name of this club I used to go to, and they had hay bales in the bar, bull riding on Thursdays, and a Confederate flag as well as a Canadian flag flying out of it. If you guys don't know, in Canada, us having the Confederate flag is a very strange thing. Like, it's just ambiance for us.
Yeah. It's kind of like the bastardized Union Jack. It's weird, but
and that's what I can't figure out either. Like, why don't they just have the old Canadian battle ensign then? Like, we used to have a pretty cool flag before the maple leaf.
That would require a little bit of research, and probably, it wouldn't take 4 seconds to purchase online as opposed to the...
True, especially now. The last time a guy took that out in Canada today, they called him a racist and they nuked his military career.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you didn't hear about that. It was some tribal leader called Mama Bear or something. Like, every other native tribe in the area is like, I don't know who this crazy bitch is, but the kids went out during Canada Day and they, like an idiot, military, rule number 1, never get on the press unless it's something good about saving babies and that. But they walked up with the old 1940s Canada flag, asking a girl about her health care card after she's talking shit about Canada. And then, sure enough, as soon as that hit the news, the kid's career was over. Like, you poor guys. They made him into a proud boy and everything.
Yeah, smaller population. Once something gets out, it's kind of like the small town network of you got to make this person a pariah as quickly as possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't like that. That was my one problem I had with the military. Is it's kind of like that husband with the politician wife that he's just letting her do whatever she wants.
Oh yeah.
And I get it. For most of the guys who are at the top brass, it's a 30-year career of ass kissing and perfect moves to be able to get up to the top of the echelon there. So you don't get there by taking ethical stands.
Well, I think, isn't that like Justin's mom and dad's an excellent example of that?
Oh, what do you mean, Castro?
Yeah. Well, everybody. I mean, Jesus.
Yeah, I still love, man, Admiral Norman. Favorite military leader I can think of in the last 30 years. Just because he spent his entire life playing that game, playing it well, got to the number 2, ran the entire Navy. Trudeau was embarrassed enough that one of his cabinet members leaked something, and so he decided to throw this guy under the bus because it was the only socially palatable thing to do. And so what did he do? He didn't tuck tail and run. He got up in full uniform, and he's like, I dare you. Come at me, bitch. I like that. God, I'm getting tingles just thinking about that now.
Yeah, Pierre was a different breed from his son, that's for sure.
I missed that one too, the try me. Yeah, if they don't remember, he started, like, imagine if JFK on your guys, I think he's like the Trudeau counterpart for America. Imagine if he had started martial law.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's
how big of a deal he was.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. He just basically said, I don't like what's going on here. I'm shutting everything down, and I'm going to start implementing curfews. Like, what?
Yeah.
Oh, I can do that. No, oh, I sure can. Here's the law. Try me. I love it, and that was literally the only 2 words that he needed to say. It's like, I've looked into it. I believe I can. Try me, and that was it. But
yeah, that was it. I miss that kind of stuff. Cray Chan had a bit of that too, but I just want to see it again in normal guy and just at the average guy. I think that would be the greatest success story is to see. And it's what gives me the tingles and keeps me in this space, even though it's ridiculous. Just watching the guy who kind of puts a bit of that into his life, just a little bit, and it's just so heartwarming to watch.
Yeah, and I enjoy that too. I like to see the individual cases of people succeeding.
Yeah,
and
I still love the Litz. He's awesome.
Yeah, he put in the work. If anybody doesn't know who the Litz is, he's a user on the Married Red Pill. He's an endorsed guy at this point who essentially for 2 years just ran his map, his action plan, every day. And every Tuesday, that poor bastard would report on what he was doing, how much weight he lost, how he was getting in shape, how his woman was coming around, or he was or wasn't, or how she was shit testing him, as it went.
Yeah, how he kind of became okay with, okay, she's probably never going to see me as this guy, so I may have to do what I have to do.
Right.
I liked that one.
Yeah, he was coming to the realization that he could burn it down at a certain point if he absolutely had to, but he was going to give her first shot. And he was going to be fair about it, and he was going to put in a certain amount of time based on how long his relationship was at that point. And if he didn't get the results that he wanted, he was fully prepared to leave. And, lo and behold, he gets his shit together. She comes around. He, stops reporting on his activities, and I'm happy for him. And then every once in a while he'll come around and he'll put in his 2 cents about what's happening to other people. But I just like to let everybody know in the audience too that essentially in this space, I hope I never see you people. And what I mean, and what I mean by that is that you get enough information from us, you apply it to your life in such a way that you unfuck yourself and then you piss off.
Yeah, cast iron cookware. You want to have to buy it once, never twice.
That's right. That's right. Yes, I want you to be made out of cast iron and not cheap aluminum. And in the end, if you want to give back and you want to be an idiot like Ryan and me and try and tell you people how to improve yourselves, well then, that's completely on you. But as far as a hug box and camaraderie and that type of thing, if I meet you out for a beer at some point in time, or if I go to one of these weird ass conventions at some point in time just to hang out at some point, that's going to be something that I want to do on my own time. I'm not doing it for you. Yeah. So if you feel as though that I feel obligated at some point in time to hang out because I decide to show my voice online every once in a while, no, I don't feel any obligation to you.
No. And actually, I'm surprised how little that comes up. Like, there's been the occasional value leech talking about what he's owed, but a lot rarer than I was expecting.
Yeah, I'm glad for that. Yeah. Online, it hasn't been nearly as much as on Reddit, where everybody wants to be spoon-fed some type of solution.
One of these days, I should walk you through Mod Mail. It is the funniest thing ever. Did you know everybody has an alt account and they don't even care? It's obviously because Wine More Please's dick is too small. We're all incels. Like, it's all so scripted. It's at the point where, just for fun, occasionally, if I see a guy getting a ban, and I see his last comment was some ego stuff, I can all right, so this is going to happen, then this is going to happen, then this is going to happen, and then Bogey's going to look in and go, God, this is a waste of my time, and mute the whole thing, and then 99% of the time it goes exactly as script. It just makes me laugh. And I think that pisses guys off more than anything. Not that they're aggrieved or not that we shattered his ego, that they're not special or different, to the point that you can actually predict what's going to happen. Even when you tell them that, they still do it.
This is the type of guy in a conversation where if it's not going his way, especially with a woman, he might just blurt out, why won't you listen to me? Something like that. And you're like, oh shit, dude, you are completely unhinged and unmodulated. We are not going to we're not going to deal with you.
Slow down, man.
slow down big time, because we're doing this as a favor to you, for one thing, and secondly, if you feel as though you can get a better product elsewhere, go buy a book. Hang out over with Noah Ravoy and see what
Oh, is he still around?
see what male agency is all about, and and learn to grow a really bad beard and have 5 kids or whatever the fuck it is you want to do. But it's not going to be talking with me or anybody else who has your individual best interests at heart and really isn't concerned so much with your woman.
Yeah.
Unless I want to fuck her, I really don't care about your woman. That's what.
Was that you that coined that one? Because that was damn. That belonged in a museum.
Yeah. I don't care. I don't care about your woman unless I want to fuck her. I mean, that's really the way that this space should work. People shouldn't be so concerned with what it is that everybody wants from their relationship. They should be concerned with fixing themselves first.
Yeah. Well, the reason I like how it's focused on the relationship or the sex, I like it because it keeps things from getting too abstract. It keeps things grounded and actionable, and it's something I've noticed. So you obviously get the philosopher king types that love talking about vibrations and energy and MBTI and Nietzsche and blah, 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 and they get so esoteric that you can tell that it's an escape from real life.
I have a liberal arts education, and I want to display it with some writing right about now. And then, since this is my hobby, I'm also going to include all the things that I learned the first, 5 semesters of my freshman year at university in my liberal arts curriculum.
Speaking of Huntsman, by the way, do you know how much shit Winemore Please gave me over that post I did to him? He's like, what is that garbage you put out? I'm like, I took his post, I took the structure, and I did like a satire of it. He goes, this is retarded. You're an idiot. I'm like, all right, fair enough. Goes there, and you put something out the next day that didn't sound pants on head stupid. So yeah, I still get checked from time to time in case you guys think there's some kind of God Emperor crap going on here.
No, we have a few hardcore guys that hang around still who basically say, yes, I understand that you're on Twitter and there's a certain amount of banter and shit talking that goes on, but come on, man, clean up your message a little bit. No, I get that, and I think that's funny.
Oh yeah.
He's hilarious too, though, on some of the things that he'll comment on in such a sarcastic way that people think it's serious.
Dude, I was wondering, I'm like, is he a boomer right now, or does he know what he's doing? I have to check myself.
I think he cares so little about how Twitter works that some of it's kind of a combination of the two.
Fair enough. Yeah, it is neat, and that's one thing I do love. It's same thing we apply to relationships and people and life and all that stuff. Twitter's just another avenue for that. It's a whole different hierarchy. You got to put in the work, so it can't be like I'm a flared guy at the Red Pill, so at Married Red Pill, you guys need to flare me and treat me as king. We've lost a lot of good people from that one.
Oh, you've also lost some complete idiots too. So
Are we thinking of 88 Will 88 here?
Well, yeah, and then there's another guy in there now who was a flared TRP guy who just earned his wings in MRP, and he and I have never gotten along because I don't like some of the positions that he takes.
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
But it's sometimes it's just personalities and the way that they go about things, and the one of my, I would think, least controversial posts, it was almost like Red Pill 085, I would say, like even below entry level,
right?
Trying to keep things as simple as possible. And his first comment was, I think you guys write for yourselves and for the other moderators and not for the general audience. And
them's fighting words.
I'm like, fuck you, dude. You have no idea what you're talking about. I mean, if I really wanted to get meta and in depth on this type of stuff, I'd use all the jargon. All of my posts would be 45 acronyms long, and that would be the end of it.
Yeah.
It just AWOL this and oh God.
True. Actually, can I get you to do me a favor? Hold the conversation for about 30 seconds. I got a tinkle.
Sure. Well, I was looking in the chat, and I was seeing at a couple different places here about, we're dealing with, again, still all these months later, the schism between, the Rule Zero group and, you know, Anthony Johnson's 21 Con, or whatever it is that he's doing these days. And, I'm not really sure where this is going to go over time, but I think at a certain point in time, everybody can kind of take a position, put their resources toward it, and just kind of let the other group do its thing in a vacuum. Unless it affects you personally, just use this time to figure out what it is that you want to consume and consume that, and leave the other shit go. That's my opinion on it. But I mean, if somebody else has a better opinion, no, I don't think ADJ's video was an attempt at humor. I think that he has handlers at this point, and a lot of what he was reading, because he wasn't saying half of that stuff. That was 90% prepared statement.
Thanks.
All hail the God Emperor of the Manosphere. Okay, well, if he wants to take that title and run with it, that's cool.
Dude, why would you call yourself a god? Like, that's ridiculous.
I don't know. I mean,
especially when you're appealing to the TradCon Go America crowd.
Well, not even that at this point. I mean, I don't know how long it's going to have to take them to backpedal from the Deuce Volt crowd that's going to be attracted by having, Steph Molyneux as a speaker at anything.
God, he's in Ontario right now?
Well, yeah, but I mean, I've always looked at him like alt-right light, because just every once in a while he'll sprinkle in, IQ superiority stuff and things like that. And, I can't deal with that shit, because, everybody should know at this point that for the most part, talent is kind of distributed equally amongst all of a population. It's just that you discover it at different points in time.
Mm-hmm.
So this whole, we're the race that did this, did that, and did the other thing. Well, fantastic. But if we continue to be swayed by dumb theories like this, we're also going to be the race that drives it into the ground, because we're not paying any attention to real metrics. We're just looking at our own identity. And if you don't see the world for the global marketplace that it is at this point, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, you're just going to be going behind. I've got. Oh
yeah, you can pop as many kids into Marianne as you want to, and it's not going to change right now.
No, I mean, I've got clients in Asia. I've got one in South Africa. I've got a client now in Germany. I've got a couple in Ireland. I'm mostly based out of the U.S., but I mean, there are going to be people with worldwide problems who need, global solutions to them. And to say that you can just kind of hole yourself up in the West, whatever the hell that is, or where it is, or whatever that means, you're just fooling yourself.
Ah, you caught me on that one too. Yeah, what counts as the West? Is that just a euphemism for the first world, for the North, the global North? Does China and Japan get included in that? Does South America? They're European. The only difference between South America and North America is income distribution and which colonizer came in.
Yeah, I mean, were you lucky enough to get the British or the Spanish as your oppressor?
Yeah.
That's pretty.
Then people are like, oh, it's only Anglo-Saxon. Okay, so then, the Italians don't count? There's always, as soon as you start asking questions, it always becomes everybody has their different opinion, and whole thing falls apart. And I hate it the most because it doesn't, you can argue about this all day, every day, and you're still not getting laid at the end of it. And you still have your chick with riding her horse on a boat, and you're out of money.
Yeah. I don't know. I just look at it as
escapism.
It's a lot of escapism. It's a lot of it's mental masturbation to account for personal failures. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to say that everybody who's in that boat is a personal failure, but I would say more often than not, they're put off by the fact that they feel overlooked.
Yeah.
And they will use quote unquote reasons for that, and a lot of it isn't pointing the finger at themselves and saying maybe I should have worked a little bit harder as a sophomore in college, as opposed to these women in the blicks that are taking all my jobs. No, it's really not it, dude. It's the fact that you're spouting off the need for personal responsibility now when you didn't take personal responsibility for yourself until it was too late.
And that's just it. Sometimes it is a bad hand. Sometimes you have to work twice as hard to get where somebody else naturally had it given to them. It's hard to swallow for a lot of guys, and this taps on what I talked earlier about men being raised as women. Whether it's true or not, it fits here. They seem to think that you're owed something just for existing.
No,
there's some kind of internal nobility that we're owed. Like, no, you're not owed.
For the longest period of time, unless you were royalty or landed gentry, as a man, you were basically war fodder.
Yeah, war fodder and plow horse at the field.
Yeah, and hopefully you had an animal or you were pulling that fucking plow yourself.
And the only time those guys even got any rights was after the Black Plague, when too many of them died. So they actually had a bargaining position.
Right. And I completely agree with you, Ivar. Race has nothing to do with the manosphere in any way.
Nope.
We've got the whitest person in the world, me. Good buddies with the United Colors of Benetton here, Ryan Stone.
I believe the term is called mutt.
Hey, I was being generous.
So am I. Mutts are cool dogs, very loyal.
Plus, I was pulling in a obtuse '80s reference that maybe some of you might understand. But yeah, I mean, there's just too many people who understand the same points about male-female relationships that isn't governed by race. I mean, I think that we're closer to the Hoteps than we are to these purple pill pussies at this point in time.
Oh, God, yeah. I've got nothing but love for Hoteps. Hotep Jesus. Quincy was the one who got me into it, if you can figure. I got him into fasting. Yeah. He got me into Hotep.
Yeah. Yeah, and, we have probably many differences on, what the backgrounds are on different things and historical perspectives on, what Egypt was like 4,000 years ago, but that doesn't matter at this point in time. I mean, no. I don't care about everybody's mythology. That really doesn't matter.
Well, maybe if you're getting laid in the pyramid, then it might matter.
Well, yeah, then it might, but I mean, only the pharaoh was getting laid in the pyramid last time I checked.
That's true.
And technically, pyramids are tombs, so nobody was getting laid, hopefully, in the pyramids.
Ouch. But you're right, and I think you kind of did that catchphrase too, where people would talk about all these philosophical or historical, ethical things, and then you just kind of would throw like a quippy one-word comment in there or one-sentence comment, like, "How does this help me get laid?" Yeah, and it really brings things back, and that's what I love about sexual strategy as the mechanism for self-actualization. Yes. Like putting your dick into a girl and having her not make your life worse is something that you can't avoid.
Yeah, and you also shouldn't sacrifice everything in order to get that human experience either. There's a certain amount of I guess commonality between everybody if they're having sex.
Yeah.
They're generally probably a lot more happy than people who aren't. So I mean,
sure as heck aren't renting vans. I'll put it that way.
Well, probably not. Vans of all types. I mean, whether they're windowless white vans and coming up to kids on the street, or windowless white vans filled with explosives. Yeah. They're the same type of people. It's just that they have bad impulse control and bad outlets for their unrequited needs in different ways. And
yeah,
I don't see much difference between a person who wants to harm others, regardless of how they want to harm. Generally, if their needs are met individually, they don't have a desire to harm others.
Nope.
So
I always joke that that's kind of like the side effect of Thought Razone, that medical pill of thought life. You're going to have a bunch of guys who aren't getting laid because there's only so many girls to go around and they're having fun with Chad or whatever. And of all those guys that aren't getting any, there's a small subset who have that right mixture of brain chemistry, incentives, and grievances, and that lack of hope that there's going to get any better, that you're just going to get a rise in these kind of violent things. Add to that a media that needs the outrage, and it's going to show you, like, we don't need to know about an incel killer in New Zealand 15 minutes after it happened. That's literally on the other side of the world, different hemisphere, completely opposite. The fact that we think about that, and people are stupid with risk, now we start thinking that small town Alberta is going to have that exact same thing because it happened once in the history of New Zealand, but we saw it on the news. Right after the second time it happened in South Africa, and then a week before that it happened in Germany, and then a week before that it happened in Carolina, one of the Carolinas. There's two of those, right? North and South?
Yes, that's right. It's true. Yeah. We combine them back together at some point, I would imagine, but we're not going to do that today. Same with the Dakotas.
Yeah.
But the biggest issue that I see with that, Ryan, is that the outrage sells, and because of that, there always needs to be some type of target, whether it's the sexless guy who goes on a rampage, or if it's the dude who decides that it's time to retire from sports ball. What's the reason why? I mean, this whole Andrew Luck thing. I mean, we got into a 3-day discussion on whether or not he's alpha or beta because of the fact that he decided to retire and not take any more blows to the head in a sport where guys.
Oh, is that Gronk guy?
No. As Andrew Luck, he's a quarterback for Indianapolis, and he retired quite young, and he was kind of like the franchise's best hope to win this season. And Gronk also retired quite young, and he pointed it out quite succinctly recently. He said, "Look, man, I'm just not in a good place. Psychologically, I really don't want to play. I'm hurt. I'm still getting over all the injuries. I don't want to lift every day." I mean, he just basically went into this whole diatribe of why he made the decision that he does. And he says, if I ever feel the desire to go back again and I'm good, healthy, then I might come back. But until then, nope, I'm doing exactly what I want to do.
And Gronk is a wealth of value. That's awesome. Good on him.
Well, he's incredibly red-pilled. People don't understand that. He does whatever he wants, whenever he wants, and he has the money to do it. And what he basically did is he lived his whole entire football career off his endorsements, and he saved all of his salary from his actual playing days. So he's got like $40-50 million that he's just sitting on right now and doing his own thing.
Wow, I had him pegged as like an AJ type, a natural without the self-awareness. But
no, because the first thing that he did once he got out of the league, he started dropping weight, and he started doing more lower weight to stay fit and not to carry so much mass on his joints. So he's down to like 215 pounds now.
Geez, Auschwitz.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, he's actually pretty ripped, and but he's lean. He's lean now. So he walks out onto the field. He looks like a wide receiver now instead of the tight end that he was when he was 265 pounds of muscle at around 10% body fat.
Right.
People don't understand how you have to eat all the goddamn time, and you need to lift constantly, and you need to run constantly in order to maintain that type of physique to perform that way. Mm-hmm. And he was tired of just the wear and tear that it took, and made the decision to scale all that back and try and put himself in a body that he could live in that wasn't going to hurt every single day for the rest of his life.
You know what? Can't fault him for that. Yeah, you don't get your sports ball champion, but he gets to live with himself, and I guess that's what matters at the end.
I always love the do you even lift, bro, guys? This is hilarious.
What, are they doing another one? What am I missing here? Is it the chat?
Yeah, in the chat.
What are you guys doing with my precious chat?
Oh, I know. It's hilarious though. You don't look like the paragon of Broden, fresh from a cycle or something like that. So
is that the Rolos does he even lift thing?
Oh well, yeah, that, and in this case, it's does Ryan even lift? But yeah,
I got the injuries to prove it. Thank you very much.
I don't know. I always find that funny, but
I don't mind. I do laugh at the Rolo one. Like, he's 50 years. Find me a 50-year-old who looks like he's in that good of a shape.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're going to find very few, unless they're
Yeah.
on TRT. You always get those Italian guys on the boats that are just jacked, but they're injecting like a mother.
Yeah. One of the fat Russian last name guys from the convention made mention of Rollo the other day, and Dom, oddly enough, was the one who retweeted it. I don't know what bug is up his ass recently.
Who's Dom?
Texas.
Oh, I don't know.
And he said something to the effect that, I could never take an adult seriously who wears a beanie on his broadcast. I'm like, fuck you guys. You guys are morons. You don't understand anything that's going on other than your pro-ethos bullshit and posturing on how you look.
Dude, you know what's crazy? I wrote about that. That's in my book where I was running pickup with my wingman Mike, and Mike was twice as good as I was. He always picked up because he had no scruples about it. Emotionally, he was kind of unstable, but he was always focused on the prize. And every time Mike would beat me, I'd always make up some random excuse as to why I was better. But it had nothing to do with the contest. It was like I won the popular vote, so it shouldn't matter. And that's all I can think of. But like, I love Tex, man. Tex is awesome. Had a good time with him. He's a good person. So I know this is just like the red meat for the audience stuff, sure, but
yeah,
you can tell that's a sign that you need growth when you start coming up with secondary reasons why you did win.
But Rick Nicoli shouldn't say fuck all about appearance about anybody when it comes to, doing anything.
Is he that guy that doxed himself?
Yeah,
you fucking idiot.
He's the guy who doxed himself, who was, in cargo shorts and, the worst shirt ever, with the worst hair ever, with the worst body ever on the last, big panel that I saw from, 2 years ago. I'm like, who the hell is this guy? Yeah, he goes off in some, rant about getting with women. I think he was old school pickup or some shit. I don't pay attention enough to everybody in the sphere to know.
I thought he was a MGTOW.
But whatever.
See, if you don't tell me this stuff, though, I don't know. All these people have me blocked and then just get people to screen cap my stuff so they have something to talk about all day, which I don't mind. As long as it brings me followers, I'm fine with it.
Yeah, I just saw the fact that he's like anti-paleo. He doesn't like the fact that people eat meat for fitness. I'm like, dude, you look like you live in a granary and just stick a spoon in every once in a while just to
you eat what food eats.
Man, I mean, it's just, oh my God, he looks horrible. But anyway,
yeah. And that's that whole crush your enemies thing too. When people are talking about the 48 laws, like you can't. I don't really know Nikolai very much. I thought he was MGTOW, to be honest. I don't know. Yeah. But let's say 100% true. We're unbiased. This is the objective opinion that he's trash. His opinions are trash. His brand is trash, and he's not useful at all. Let's just go on that assumption here. I know it's a stretch, so bear with me.
That's a pretty big assumption. I mean, hey, I don't know how horrible of a human being he is other than that one tweet, but okay.
Yeah. But what is it that you can do about that to crush that 100%? There's nothing. I can't kick him off of Twitter.
You just mute it. I mean, that's I mute and block judiciously on Twitter. I mean, I'm up around 1,500 followers and under 9 months on Twitter, and I subscribe or whatever. I follow literally 37 people. I don't mess around with a ton of people on Twitter. I mean, what's the point? Like I've said to many people, it's a diet of the mind. You can choose what to listen to in all of this. This is not it's
marketing, it's advertising.
Yes. And you can curate what it is that you want to listen to very easily by simply saying, yeah, that person's not my cup of tea. I'm definitely not going to follow them. And, I've had my love hates with some of the people that I follow, and then I've unfollowed them again because they've either said something ridiculous or they take positions that are just unfeasible, untenable, or don't have a basis in reality. And that's kind of the way that it's went. But I know you got to get ready for your next show at 11.
Oh, that's right. I didn't realize the time just flies when you're talking Midwestern with another horse guy.
Yeah. So I mean, if you want to advertise where that's going to be at 11:30, I can.
Yeah, I do believe it's on Rollo's channel. I have to go back to Twitter. I guarantee you there's some private messages I've been ignoring. Corey, man, thanks so much. I love when you come on, man. When you, Bogey, Wine more, please. I've never not had a good time with you guys around. I hope you never go away. I mean, and if you do, I hope it's because WoW Classic is finally, or Star Wars Galaxies or whatever MMORPG you used to play is coming back now, and you got to take a couple weeks.
Yeah, I had mentioned on Twitter that somebody was saying, Carl's rants when he gets back are going to be so fire, and I said, well, don't be surprised if he's made $1 million somehow playing World of Warcraft.
Yeah, that's right, because he was competitive. Either way, I'm looking forward to it. But anyways, thanks you guys so much for sticking around on this one. I had a lot of blast. Yes, you can always find Corey, Chest Rockwell, or Rule Zero Dad as his handle on Twitter. I would suggest to follow him. He's one of those sleeper cars that you wouldn't think much of until you start hearing him talk. He says a lot with very little. Easily as smart as me, if not smarter, probably smarter. But he won't give away all that for free. So, anyways, unless you got anything else to add, I'm just going to end it there.
No, that's fine. You can think you're as smart as me all you want, Ryan.
I don't even care. Me being smarter didn't get me laid, so I've decided to gronk that shit. Anyways.
No, in fact, I guess my parting words there is that regardless of how smart you are, if you don't understand the differences between men and women, you can be a genius and still have a dry dick. So there you go.
Yeah, just like Homer, I'd rather stick the crayon up my nose and be happy.
That's right.
All right, so I believe it's Rolo's channel. Just follow me on Twitter. I'll make sure to retweet it so you guys can see it, and I'll catch you guys later. All right, Corey, we're entering this one now. I don't know how long the delay lasts.